have tonight, what we will be doing is having a demo using the demonstration about how to do this using 3 tables. Since there are more women here than men, 2 women, 1 man, 1 for the men. Okay? So just so you get an idea about what's happening. We've also brought along thanks to David, a casket. We're going to examine this a little bit more closely at the very end. That will actually be a test for you, and we'll see what constitutes a kosher casket, or what doesn't constitute a kosher casket, as may be. All right. So this evening, what is our plan is, and I want to put this in context of this evening and the next session. This evening, what we're about to do is to go through all of the steps that we take in doing a tahara. The way that we will be doing it is that Dan will be leading all 3 tables, and there will be 1 person who will be the rosh at each of the tables. David here in the middle, Mary, and Holly at the other 2 tables. The reason I've asked 1 person to do that is because while Dan can talk about, unless you're there trying to put an arm into a shroud and need a little bit of help on site, we have 3 people who are here who are very experienced in doing taharas, and therefore they'll be able to help show you exactly what's going on and how to do it. That's this week. The next time we get together will be a time when we study the liturgy that goes along with the tahara. And that is what we're doing, right? But I want to start out with something that emerged from studying the liturgy. The liturgy simply means liturgy is formal prayer. What emerged from there, from studying the liturgy, and this very few people talk about in this way, but I want to suggest that this is a proper way to talk about it, liturgically. Because my specialty, I happen to do a lot of work in liturgy. Not many people have talked about the liturgy of Tahara, so it remained a kind of esoteric study that only a very few of us were able to get interested in. And Dan and I wrote that book based on a study of liturgy. Liturgy loves frameworks. The rabbis, whenever they constructed something, they loved frameworks and they loved sandwiches. Whatever you did at the beginning of something, you also did something at the end that was a parallel, right? So if it starts with a long blessing starts with Baruch Atah Adonai, it ends with Baruch Atah Adonai. It's really a simple kind of, they loved these kind of structures because structures allowed you to figure out what your place was wherever you were doing something. So if you look at the conservative Sidur or the Machzor, you'll see that there are place markers all along saying here's where we are in this particular structure. Whether it's the Shema and its blessings or whether it's the Amidah, it'll give you some markers along the side where we are. The liturgy of Tahara works the same way. And it's our contention that it works exactly the same way. So there's stuff that goes on before you even walk into a Tahara room. There's stuff you need to know and talk about before one even enters the Tahara room. The same way that there's stuff at the end when you walk out of that Tahara room, having finished, there's also some stuff that needs to be talked about. All of this is just by way of suggesting the outline of how this works. Second, there are opening prayers, there are concluding prayers. A lot of parallels between what goes on at the beginning and what goes on at the end that we'll talk much more about really in detail next time. But you should know that these are the 2 structures. In between, There's rechitza. Rechitza in Hebrew simply means washing. It is physical washing. That is, it's preparing the body physically to be able, once one is physically cleaned, to be able to do tahara, which is spiritual washing, if you will. And notice that that is number 3. So there's an ascending order of, if you will, almost psychological, one comes to this kind of a peak. This is the essence, this is the height of what one is doing. And then one goes to halbasha and halana. Halbasha, these are words that we created, but they're words which were taken from other places in Tahara, in traditional liturgy. Again, we'll talk more about it next week. Halbasha simply means dressing, that is putting on the shrouds. Halana is placing in the aron. Okay, concluding prayers. So it goes to the tahara. When you say tahorhu, tahorahi, that is the moment, if you will, that all of this takes place. Got that? Questions? Good. How many of you are anxious about what we're going to do tonight? No one? Good. I'm about to make you anxious. Okay. What I'd like you to do in a moment is I would like you to get up, and we're going to be moving around a lot tonight. What I want you to do is to get up, find somebody who you don't know, and sit next to them. Simple enough?
Gender?
Now that's an interesting question. What do you think? Now for this exercise, it does not matter. Go ahead. Switch places. Go, 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 go. Find somebody who you don't know.
It went very far. Yeah. Hi. One of those guys that
Yeah, hang on for a sec. Okay. All right. Just before we got together, find somebody, please, who you don't know. Find some, if it's possible at this point, find somebody who you don't know or sit together. Okay. Hello. Good. I'm going to make an assumption that probably at least 50% of you know the other person. Okay. One of the crucial pieces of doing a tahara is what I've called, thank you, what we've called rechitza, step number 2. Rechitza means simply a cleaning that we do to the mate or the metah. Once again, if I use Hebrew terminology, please raise your hand and let me know, mate or metah, the deceased, okay? So one of the things that we do is we do a serious cleaning of, and I know that one of the hardest things for me when I first started doing taharas was to take the hand of somebody who was dead and hold that hand. And the next thing that I had to do was I had to take a toothpick and I had to clean that person's fingernails without talking. Because remember, in the Tahara room, Kavod HaMeit is really primary. That is, there's no conversation that goes on that is not needed, not necessary. So what I want you to do is to turn to this person next to you. Go ahead. And please clean their fingernails. Okay. Reactions?
Stu, I have two questions. The first is the state of the body when it comes in.
Stay?
The
Okay.
state of the body when it comes in, would the mortuary have, I mean, might there be blood under the fingers? Would they have done a preliminary cleaning, or might we see
Okay.
fecal material? So that. And the second thing is just physiologically, if you poke someone who's dead, would they bleed?
Physiologically, if you poke, people do bleed, yes. I mean, there's blood that comes out if there was surgery or then they weren't sewed up right. Yeah. In all likelihood, the body, at least with Sinai, most of the time the body is prepared enough so that you may see blood, but it's usually
Say about that. It really depends on the Chavre Kadisha group that is coming. There is some Chavre Kadisha who don't want us to touch the body, just leave it in the bag where the body came in, and they'll take care of everything. And some Chavre Kadisha needs our help to actually do the preliminary cleaning, and then they come in.
right. So the rules have not been set up yet for this one. Okay, by the way, it's not only blood; it's excrement, it's whatever that happens to be there. Bandages often. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to get into showing.
I think my
soaked?
Nothing will happen.
So my compulsive nature, how clean does it have to be?
Clean.
Clean so that there's nothing underneath the nail? Or?
It has to be clean so that, look, I want to remind everybody what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're preparing a body for a journey. And the journey is in two places, in the ground and someplace else, right? The same way that one would get cleaned up if you were visiting royalty, for example. That kind of clean. Yes?
I have a couple questions. I know you're not going to ask us to do this with each other, but I assume you do the toes as well, or no?
Uh-huh.
Toenails as well?
Sure.
And then the other question is, so as you're cleaning stuff out from under the fingernails, you're going to accumulate stuff on your stick, and so you want to be able to wipe it off so you can but you keep
Cloth.
working with the same stick, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's why.
we would never clip nails or anything like that. I know we would remove nail polish, I assume, but
Yes.
we would never clip nails. And then what if there are artificial nails? Do those get removed?
Mhm.
And do we remove those?
Unless they can't be removed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That-
we have
that-
to soak them in a solution. and
Exactly.
then we
So-
need to
so-
remove them.
Your kit should have nail polish remover,
Yeah.
but it's not being removed. You're right, it's the kind that's gonna attach. And
So
at that
if-
point, that's.
So if there are false, fake nails on those, just stay.
Right,
Yeah.
so
If they can't be removed, that's right.
But then we don't clip the nails at all.
No. What Mary mentioned very briefly was a kit. So at Netivot Shalom, for example, before we used Sinai, or even sometimes now, we have this kit. We're going to show you what's in it. This is our portable Tahara kit. It's got a lot of stuff in it, nail polish included, toothpicks included. We haven't gotten to barbecue forks like I gave you. It's a little easier to use than toothpicks. Yeah, Bruce.
What about brushes? You know, the sticks are good for under the nails, but sometimes I can imagine somebody that hands were just like really gritty and you need to like really scrub it.
There's water.
Well, yeah.
Water.
There's water and washcloths. Usually not. I don't know if we have brushes in there, and I don't think Sinai has either. No.
Sponges, though.
Yeah. Yes.
The other reaction I had is, even though the person is dead, even though it's a body, it would be hard for me not to talk to. That might sound silly. To talk to them while I'm touching them. I'm sorry. That might.
If the no, I understand.
I feel an impulse to like.
Yeah, I understand it. If you really feel, okay, if you really feel, say it under your breath.
Yeah, no, I won't, but I just.
Right.
But you were asking for reaction.
Yeah. It's hard to, yes.
It's hard to touch them
That's right.
so intimately and not say anything.
Okay. Yeah.
I found it very comforting.
Very what?
I found it very comforting, both to have it done and to do it. It just felt like, maybe it's the human touch, but you felt like you were being cared for or
Yeah.
caring for someone else.
Right, exactly. Good. Okay. Anything else? All right. You're on.
Okay, so let me say a few things that we're not going to do and what we are going to do. As Stuart mentioned, we're not going to read the liturgy. I will, as we go through this process, kind of give you a one-sentence summary of what each piece of the liturgy, or most of them anyway, is about, just so you have a sense of how it places itself within the physical process. Here we go. But we're not going to read it. We're not going to pour water. We're not going to use water at all. Nobody's going to get wet. When you are in a Tahara room, you will get wet. We are not going to put boards under the Meitah at one point in the process, and we'll mention as we get to that point when we would do that. But you put boards under the body, to separate it, to move it off from the table so that there's space. We're not going to do that. That will be very uncomfortable for our live métim. We are not going to put anybody into the casket. Okay. We will talk, as I said, very briefly about the essence of each of the prayers in the liturgy. We will give you sort of the general flow of the process of the whole procedure, how it goes from beginning to end, and you've sort of got that here. And that we'll go over in detail and give you little clues, tidbits, hints as to how to do them smoothly and well, like how to get the tahrichim on. It's not an easy thing to do. There are tricks. So we've got this outline, and I want to sort of mention this, but I want to emphasize it. The tahara is right in the middle. There's sort of a crescendo and a diminuendo, if you like. And within the tahara, there's several pieces, and the tahara is at the center of the procedure. So let's talk about the preliminaries. You arrive at the funeral home, and you will likely have a conversation with whoever the staff is there. You will find out the name of the mate or metah, the Hebrew name if they have that. You will find out the condition of the body, if there are any complications that you need to be aware of. You as a group will decide who's your Rosh or Roshah, what roles each of the people on the team, probably 4 people generally, is going to have. You will decide how you're going to proceed, for example, with the readings. So if you look at our book, it says at the beginning, assign somebody as the reader. So in some groups, one person on the team does the reading while the other people carry out the physical characteristics. In the Chevra Kadisha that I work with most of the time, it's a pretty small group of people. It's almost always the same group of people, or almost the same. And we don't have really a Rosh or assigned roles. We go in, everybody knows what's going to be happening, unless there's something special going on. And we read all of the prayers either simultaneously, in unison, or in rotation. Nobody is the reader. That's how we do it. Others may decide. There's another chevra that I'm part of where one person sits with the book and does the reading. Often it's the person who knows the Hebrew best. We generally do it in English and Hebrew, a mixture, whatever. So those are issues that you're going to have to decide how you're going to do it. You may decide before you go into the Tahara room to do an opening kavanah. At the very front, before you even get to the table of contents in our book, there's a kavanah that comes from the Philadelphia Reconstructionist chevra, I think it is. I think maybe some even read part of that last time, which closes, may we see you, God, in the face of the mate, as we see you in the faces of our fellows doing this work. That's the kind of the essence of it. So you may want to do something like that. That's all preliminary. Then there's sort of preparatory preliminary. So there's sort of the before you even start, and then there's the stuff you do next before you really start. You wash your hands. You put on gloves. You set out the tachrichim, and when we get started, I'm going to have you open the box and see what's in the tachrichim box. It's a men's box, a women's box. They're very slightly different, and I'm not sure I know exactly how they're different because I've never dealt with the box of women's tachrichim, but they're basically the same. You're going to set it out so that when you come to the point when you're going to put the tachlichicha on, everything's where it's supposed to be. Because a lot of it's all just pieces of white cloth. You want to know which one's which, and not start fussing around while the maid is waiting for you to get them dressed. There's a little bag. So we were talking before about cleaning. You get schmutz under the fingernails. That schmutz maybe should go in that little bag because it's part of the mate, part of the body in some sense, should be buried with them. If there is blood that's flowing and you clean it off with the cotton ball or whatever, that goes in there as well. All sorts, there's hair, various body parts, things like that go in the bag, get put into the casket with the mate. Toward the end, when you get the casket ready, you'll have a wooden Star of David to put at the foot of the table. You want to know where that is. You're going to have a candle that's going to go at the head. You want to know where that is and where the matches are. So all those kinds of little details of getting yourself set up to be discussed. The used linens, you're going to use a lot of towels and sheets. Know where the linen basket is in your tahara room. Other stuff may go in a different disposal place. The casket itself may need some preparation. Often there's big piles of straw in there. You're not really interested in the straw, throw it away. So on. So all those kinds of things. And then there's the buckets. So you will probably have some small buckets like this. Excuse me? Well, well, you're going to use these for washing your hands, but you will also maybe fill these with warm water to use when you're doing the cleaning. And you will have big buckets like these, which you'll use for pouring water, cold water. You may want to get those all ready at the beginning. You may decide to wait and fill the big buckets till you're ready for them. It's again a minhag that you're going to have to work out. So all of that is in the pre. There's an opening liturgy before you really touch the body. There are 3 pieces. I think a little bit about mechila, a forgiveness prayer. There's one at the beginning, one at the end, at least in our minhag. To the mate, you say as a group, we're going to do the best we can. We apologize in advance if there's anything we do that's not respectful. And again, kavod hamate. That's the essence of our mindset. There's a preliminary prayer called chamol, in which we beseech God to have mercy on the individual. And there's a prayer called Ana Elohei Chesed, in which you ask God for help for ourselves, that we not suffer any harm in the process. We're doing a mitzvah, we get a certain mitzvah protection. We recite that. Those 3 prayers, the Mechila, the Chamol, and the Ana Elohei Chesed, are the only elements of the liturgy that are essentially what I would call composed. Virtually everything else is an excerpt from Tanakh, from the Mishnah, but put together and structured in a certain way, and we'll talk more about how that structure works next time. But that beginning piece is the only part that isn't straight out of our liturgy, out of our literature, excuse me. There are phrases in some of those that some of you may pick up on and recognize as coming from the Amidah, from here, from there, but they are not part of the traditional literature. Questions so far? Yes?
Is the set of tefillot the same that an Orthodox group would use?
Yes. So the liturgy that we have is built on the liturgy from where exactly? The
Sacred
Chicago?
Society of Chicago.
So that was an
In other words, when I started the Chevra Kadisha at Netivot Shalom, we trained with, let me just put this on. We trained with the Chevra Kadisha at Congregation Beth Jacob in Oakland. It was their practice to use this particular liturgy. There are others, but that was their practice, and it was that all of the work that we've done on is based. So our liturgy may differ, and I'll point out to you where it differs next time, but essentially it's the same.
There are some significant differences between Sephardic and Ashkenazic tradition as far as the liturgy is concerned, and we're probably not going to have the time to look at that in any detail. Okay, so let's sort of get started. Half the women there, half the women here, men over here. So let's just sort of get to your stations first, and then we'll see what's next.
Yeah. There is a garbage can right over here. For those of you who
Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is open up the box of Tachrichim and sort it out. And I'll ask our Roshim at each of the tables to sort of help figure that out.
Okay, Yamaka. This is what we call, that's the gown that goes on top of everything. Okay. Here, this is a bucket where, or like no, it's a bag where we're going to put maybe sand or the schmutz. These are the straps that we're going to tie the gowns and then the feet. I'll show later.
That goes over the face, that little apron looking thing.
So you may want to, after you've sorted it out, put it maybe off on the side in some organized way. Okay.
We will.
So you're already gowning, okay? You haven't gotten to the Tachrichim yet? That's fine.
No, but I just wanted to.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the last thing that we're going to do, but the first thing that we're going to place on top of the casket. Clear? Okay.
So, how many things are there here that we got to deal with? There are 3 basic large-ish garments, 2 shirts, 2 that go over the head, 1 pants. There's the straps. There's the sovev, the sheet that's going to go inside the casket. Those are the basic. And then there's the bag for the schmutz.
No, there's no big. No, for women there is. They have like.
You will see reference to a hat in the book, but for the men there isn't a hat.
I think there were booties as well.
So here, you see the pants? The pants? So basically what we're going to do, we're going to tie.
So, yeah, this is just basically like, a sheet, right? So we'll talk about this later. Let's just put it
Maybe put it on
back up and put it further down, right? So this is the bonnet piece, right? If you think hoodie, right?
Right.
Right? And then this is.
Men's garments don't have that?
This is that little bag that we were talking about, right? That you just here,
It's symbolic. It's a religious. Yeah. And this is a religious ritual. They're absolutely cleanliness is important, but it's not about the cleanliness. It's about the.
Are they ready? They didn't take it out yet?
No, they gowned up first.
So tell them to
Yeah.
go down up.
Okay. So,
On that steel table, yeah.
so if we're ready, maybe you guys can go get gowns and
Sure.
gloves.
It's over there, guys.
So follow
We're getting out
David.
of the Sahara, getting out of the Sahara area, and on the other side there is all the stuff that we need in order to get this.
Try and keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, well, Mary went off to the gowning first, ahead of time, whatever. So she's a little bit behind on the tachrishan, but ahead on the gowning.
All right.
There was some difference if it's
No.
Everything goes in.
The only thing that gets torn off in a talit, first of all, if women are, if a woman has habitually used a talit, she uses a talit here as well. The only thing that's cut is one tzitzit. That's all. The atara stays the same. Unless, frankly, unless it's a very, some atarot are.
Yeah, in the book it said if there's extra adornments, then it would be taken off.
They're
Yeah.
kind of silver or whatever. I would take that off before. But the talit, just one tzitzit is cut.
Which means you have to know where the scissors are. This is, again, part of the, preparation.
It's really knowing your kid.
Yes.
Well, it's knowing the person, and that's one of the reasons why the significance of doing.
Then, even though the order is one thing, we put on the pants next. They nip inside. Then this shirt, which is a ketonet, and then finally the kittel. This is the kittel, but the kittel who, exactly, people. If someone wanted to be buried in their own kittel, is that possible, or do they always be buried in the set? That's a really great question. I haven't experienced that question, but that's a good rabbi question.
I think yes. I think yes, assuming it's, especially if it's a white linen thing, which it probably would be if it's a traditional kittel. You wear it on Yom Kippur, you wear it when you get married, and you wear it when you're buried.
It was always explained to me that
Yes.
you have a kittel in life, it's the same kittel in death.
Yes.
Fortunate enough to be in the location where you store your kittel. And it's available. Right. And this is the one big sheet, which will show later will go into the aroma. On the bottom. Yes. There should be a little bag.
Yeah, this is the little bag with the ties inside.
Yes.
The final wrap.
And it's actually placed in the aroma. Exactly.
Yes.
And then you put the person in.
And then you wrap
Yes.
them up.
So then this is the
part I'm most curious about.
And then you put the top of that.
So this is a bag, and this, say for instance, there is a little bleeding, and you used,
then trash.
Exactly, well,
It's the organic trash,
organic.
so to speak.
Would you put
Yeah, I would put the steak, but
anything that came off of it?
Exactly, so we have cotton balls, so, anything that, we've used the cotton balls for blood, and,
So,
Okay, if you folks are, if you guys are all dressed, please come back here.
So we're gonna do it slightly different than the fellas did. We're gonna go in there and everybody's gonna get their gloves and their mask and their gown and their sleeve coverings, and then we can all just come back in here and everybody can get
I'm dead.
dressed up, so the other
Okay. You're not gowning up. So I see you struggling with that. One of the tricks for the gloves is before you put them on, blow on them and expand them.
Okay.
I always look for the largest size available.
Okay, I was trying to go for what might actually fit, but maybe.
Right, I don't see, snug isn't necessarily a virtue.
Okay. Thanks for the tip.
All right, good.
Okay. On the full length with the booties, some not. Either way is fine. Your feet, if you don't put them on, your shoes may get wet if you're not going to put booties on them.
Or bring boots.
Or bring boots. I mentioned to somebody, for the glove, you'll be washing your hands before you put on the glove and not drying them exactly, which means putting gloves on a wet hand. So you're going to try and sort of air dry them. If you blow into the glove to sort of expand it, that will make it easier. If you pick the biggest size available, you may wear a medium glove, but I always use the extra large.
Is it a ritual washing or is it a real washing?
It's a ritual washing without a bracha. I lost the cap on the mic. Okay. There we go.